Last season, baseball's youngest team led the American League in stolen bases. And it was one of the top defensive clubs in the game.
Holy smokes, Kyle Lewis!
Featured 2 Gold Glovers in the infield.
Are you kidding? That was gorgeous!
Evan White making the catch!
Plus another with the hardware in his trophy case.
What a play!
Don't forget, the unanimous AL Rookie of the Year.
God home run, Kyle Lewis! You cannot stop number 1.
And top rookie starter.
Justice Sheffield strikes out the side.
With the Bulldog atop the rotation.
Bulldog tough, you bet.
Oh, and throwing one of baseball's best farm systems. And we've got one question.
Are you ready for more?
Mariners baseball.
Hi, everybody. Doesn't that kind of get your ticker going just a little bit for the start of the baseball season? I'm Angie Mentink with Root Sports, pitchers and catchers. They are down in spring training, getting ready, and we're kind of helping you get ready as well. Welcome to the 2021 Mariners Community Tour, or Mariners Care Community Tour virtual event. And obviously, because the things are the way they are, we have to do these things virtually, but glad that you are with us for it. During our program, I'm going to be joined by 2 of my very favorite Mariners alumni. I'll introduce them to you in just a second. And this is one of 2 youth baseball and softball clinics that we are going to be having for you virtually here. And hopefully you will join us for our next one. Later in this program, we're going to kind of turn things over to you a little bit for our Q&A. So you get to ask the questions and we will be providing the answers. All right, so right now let's meet our special guest, and we're going to start with Rowland-Smith. And if you had any doubts what this guy is made of, this guy made his Mariners debut against who else but Ken Griffey Jr. He had to come in when Ken Griffey Jr. returned with the Reds and then promptly got booed for striking him out, which doesn't seem very nice. I mean, you came in and did what you were supposed to do, Ryan, and yet Mariner fans booed you for it.
I thought I was just getting booed because I'm from Australia. That's what I thought it was. People heard me speak and they decided to boo me. But no, good memories. Thanks for bringing that up. And you mentioned earlier before, pitchers and catchers report today. Special day if you're a player. I know Brian can agree with that. But I'm so excited to get this 2021 season underway.
All right. Yeah. Next up, because no offense, Ryan, I kind of work with you a lot in the studio, and they were like, hey, Ryan Rowland-Smith's on the show. And I was like, okay. And then they were like, and also Brian Hunter. And I was like, what? I'm in. Totally. I'm happy to host because honestly, Brian, yeah, he's good peeps. Brian Hunter, they say in baseball to touch them all. And Brian Hunter, almost really has done that. Played for 6 different organizations. I think the Houston Astros you played for twice. This guy is fast as lightning, 74 stolen bases one year, led the American League twice, and also one of the nicest human beings you will ever meet, Brian Hunter. So good to see you, my friend.
Thank you. Great to see you too, Angie. Thank you for those kind words, and I feel the same way. It's an honor to be on with you guys today. And Ryan, you're right there. You're my man. Great to see you again on here virtually.
All right. So again, it's kind of the theme. It's why we're doing this show virtually. And that is, we're living through uncharted times right now, and kids are having to find a way to play the games that they love so much. So Ryan, I'll start with you. What advice would you give kids who are kind of really stuck at home as a way to stay in the game?
Yeah, look, it's been tough. I mean, and you can look at this 2 ways. One, you can say, well, I can't do anything. I have to stay at home. Or you can use that time, that downtime, maybe get away from your team. It doesn't matter if you're 13, 23 years old and you're still playing this game at a high level. You can use that time to reconnect in what little things that you can do on your own. One big piece of advice, I remember when I was a kid, the only access I had to baseball was videotapes. Now, I'm showing my age. I know a lot of kids out there right now, they have access to YouTube. You can see any player any speed you want. You can slow-mo, you can see a side angle. And one thing I used to love to do, my favorite players, Ken Griffey Jr. being one of them, was just try and hit just like him. I used to watch him, study him, press rewind on that tape, and then slowly mimic exactly what he did. And it's funny, you talk to major leaguers now, and they all model themselves after an ex-player or their heroes or someone they grew up with. Then I had coaches who said, hey, why are you hitting like that? I said, oh, because I saw Ken Griffey do it. And they said, hey, when you make $1 million, you can hit like that. Until now, you have to hit like this. My biggest advice for kids, get on YouTube, study your favorite players, pick up the little things that they do. Success leaves clues. There's a reason they are that good, and there's a reason they are elite. Try these little things out, and you can do that at home. You can do that in the mirror. And the second piece of advice I've got, Angie, is you go invest in a bow net or one of those nets you can prop up. It takes 5 minutes. You can do so much and accomplish so much, whether it's throwing, pitching, keep your arm healthy, work on those little drills from the hitting side, everything. You can do that in the front of your house, in the garage. You can do that all year long. And look, the Northwest, you guys are so used to being indoors, being stuck in cages off the field in the middle of winter anyway. So you guys kind of have the leg up when you're talking about doing stuff on your own, that's for sure.
Exactly. And if you don't have a net, everybody's got a mattress or some couch pillows. Pop the mattress up against the wall. Ask maybe mom's permission first. But Brian, what do you think? What are sort of things that you can remember that you did maybe when you were a kid by yourself that kids can sort of learn from now, as we're in the middle of this pandemic?
Well, I think that's great. Ryan pretty much just took all the ideas that you can pretty much do. So thanks for that, Ryan. But just to piggyback off that, I agree. I totally agree. Video is by far the best. It's an opportunity for parents and to even get with their youth to even build that relationship and watch video together of their favorite players. But growing up, I do vividly remember going to the ballpark myself or going to the school and just throwing a ball against the wall. That's always one of your best friends. You don't need nobody else. That's always one of the best go-tos. But then I really feel like there's a balance drill that you can do at every age level. If you can't take a swing and keep good solid balance, then you're not going to be able to take a swing when you get a bat in your hand. So I feel like at home, you don't need a bat. You can just stand in place, take a swing, focus on your balance. And I'm sure that applies for pitching as well, Ryan, if he agrees, just making the pitch and then having good balance.
For sure.
Yeah. And I was going to say, to add on to that, I always tell young kids when I'm coaching them is, who's the best coach? You find a mirror. Yeah. If you think, hey, I'm keeping my head still and you can't maintain eye contact with yourself in the mirror, well, then you probably know that head's flying a little bit. So how about some drills or some things that, or maybe it's more than that, and it's a fundamental that you think, I heard you say, Brian, balance, but what's something else that kids should really take advantage of during this time? And maybe it's just getting faster or stronger. And I'm kind of talking about some older kids there, but what can they use this downtime for? Because some kids are going to be working, some kids aren't.
Yes. Well, fortunately, my grandson, Desan, he just turned a year old not too long ago. And that's a perfect example of somebody who he takes a bat, he's got a tee for his age, and he's hitting balls off the tee, wiffle ball. And I'm not saying everybody has the ability to do that, but he's 1 year old. It's very inexpensive. And I'd recommend a tee with a wiffle ball if you can.
Yeah. And a reminder that literally, folks at home, you can make a tee out of anything.
Yes.
Paper towel, the cardboard center of a paper towel, a cone. Yeah. If you have a cone, just set it up on something and it can automatically become a tee. All right, Ryan, I'm swapping over to you now. I know you have a lot of drills for pitching with the sock, pitching with the towel. So give folks some ideas on things that they could be doing right now at home, fundamentals that they need to have to be an effective baseball player.
Yeah, one thing I always touch on, again, whether you're 12 years old, 22 years old, you have to learn how to throw before you learn how to pitch. And sort of backing up on your point, you can be your best pitching coach. If something feels right, it feels fluent, it feels natural, it's probably going to take you in a really good direction. If all of a sudden you start getting way too mechanical and you start trying to do this drill and that drill, all of a sudden you're going to slow down, you're going to get robotic, and you're just going to start creating bad habits. So one big thing, we talked about getting that bone out of that mattress, like Angie apparently used to do back in the day. But if you can get that net and you can throw that ball into that net, you can accomplish a lot. What I mean by that is, instead of getting up in front of that net and working on pitching mechanics, let's start working from the ground up. In other words, let's start getting into those legs. Let's start learning how to move just a little bit faster. So there's a couple of things I like to do. One, it's called the quarterback drill. Basically, you line up next to that net like you're in a stretch position. The net's over here, and you basically get back in deep into that back leg as you can, and you fire off that back leg. The reason I say that, you see so many kids now, they're all upper body. They're not getting into those legs whatsoever, and it also forces you to move faster out of that deeper squat position. Another I call this a long toss drill, and I'm a big advocate for long toss, by the way. Another one is the pitcher's crawl, where you're basically just doing a little hop, boom, throwing the ball. That's to generate momentum. Like I said, I was a slow mover. I was a bigger dude, and I was up, down, and go, and I was slow, into my foot strike. As soon as I started moving faster into foot strike, as soon as I started getting into those legs, that's when the velo started coming for me when I was 16, 17, 18. And I started using my mass, my body from the ground up. And you can accomplish a lot with some of these drills. I think it's more important a lot of the times, as opposed to pitching mechanics, to learn how to throw before you start trying to learn how to pitch and be perfect with those mechanics.
And normally I would have you stand up and demonstrate those things, but I know you never wear long pants during the virtual meeting.
I'm wearing Speedos right now. No, I'm kidding.
Nice.
Hunter, something that Ryan just touched on, and that is the legs are stronger than the arms. I need it as measured. Yeah. I mean, these are only this big, and down here, especially mine these days, the thighs, the backside, they are stronger. How important is it, not only in pitching, listening to Ryan, but so critical in hitting?
Yes, hitting, and then with speed too, and speed and agility. So no matter how fast you are, we're all have the ability to be faster. So I'd recommend doing some hill running. Everybody, we can go outside. If there's a hill near you, run some sprints up the hill, and you'll notice what happens is that over time, after about 6 weeks of doing that on a daily basis for 15 minutes, you'll build up the muscle memory, and you'll become faster when you're running on level ground. So I think definitely that. And then if you have an opportunity to go to the beach, if you can get out to the beach and run some sand, between sand and uphill incline, those are two by far the best. And that's what helped me personally in my career, take me from just a fast runner to extremely fast.
And having played in a lot of the rec fields around the Northwest, a lot of those are sand. So they actually will kind of double as a beach, if you will. You were so good at stealing bases. And I know a lot of that is picking up things on a pitcher. A lot of that is just your God-given speed. I know you worked really hard, but can you remind kids, you don't always have to be the fastest base runner, Brian, to be an effective base runner and even steal.
That's right. There you go. Yes. I think a perfect example of that is Jeff Bagwell. We all know Jeff Bagwell for his power and his average, but he was probably one of the best base runners throughout his whole career. And that's because he always anticipated. So I would say the word anticipation is probably the most important thing. If you're always thinking ahead so that when it happens, baseball and softball, everything in the game happens too fast. So if you already think it out in your mind prior to the play, then you'll be able to react. And I want to talk about you in 1994 too, when you stole like 59 bases and 64 attempts too. So you got some history too, some stolen bases.
Thank you. I think, it might be still a record somewhere. Maybe.
Oh, it's definitely there.
You've heard from Ryan and Brian and myself. This is a team game, and we just get better when we add more people to it. Right now, we check in with Justin Dunn, Dylan Moore, and Dave Sims for more tips on how to stay in the game.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dave Sims, man of broadcast, and we're joined today by Justin Dunn and Dylan Moore. We're going to talk a little bit about youth baseball and softball virtual clinic here. And as you know, it's been a challenging year for everybody, going back to last March, and here we are, we're still in it. Let's talk about a few things that Dylan and Justin are working on. to stay safe at home as they get ready for the season. And Justin, let me start with you. How did you change your focus last year, both physically and mentally, during the months at home between spring training and the start of the 2020 season?
Yeah, I kind of just used that time to fine-tune some delivery stuff. I didn't really necessarily have anybody to throw with, and being a pitcher, you can't really just throw the ball and then go chase it and then throw it back. So I spent a lot of time in the mirror, man. I'm a big mirror drill guy, just going through my delivery in the mirror and trying to repeat it as much as possible, and reading a lot and trying to learn as much about the mental game as I can.
Dylan, what about you?
Yeah, I agree with Justin on the mental aspect of it. There was a lot of time to kind of gather your thoughts, and it was definitely a different time in the world, I guess you could say. And then, we kind of reflect. I got to reflect on some time with the family, which was good. On the baseball side of things, I had a ball and I had a tennis ball, and I was able to throw it up against the wall and kind of just mimic some infield drills on that point, and then just using some soft some wiffle balls off a tee with a short bat or a long bat. It didn't matter, but kind of confined to a little bit of a smaller space, and with nobody around, it's easy to get complacent. But I found time in the day to kind of play a little bit of wall ball with myself and keep the swings up.
Learning what you learned last year, the first time. Now this is basically second time going through this stuff. Dylan, what have you added to, subtracted? What have you built upon getting ready for this season? It looks like we're going to get 162 games.
Yeah, that's the biggest factor, right? So we only played 60 last year, and now it's 162. So, you kind of have to cater your workouts and cater your body to be able to sustain itself over the course of the season. And that was a big factor in all of my decisions, working out in the gym and working with my skill in baseball. And I think that I'm in a good spot, and I'm glad we didn't have to delay the season. And I'm ready to go.
Yeah. How about you, Justin? What did you learn, and as you apply it for this year, getting ready for the full McGilla this year?
Yeah, so this is my first real go at a full one, so I don't really know what to expect quite exactly. But no, it was good to get home and get back with my support system, get back with my team, my little circle that I have that I work with, and in a way, kind of couldn't really do much, so just focus on baseball and really hit the ground running and put a lot of, like Dino said, a lot of physical work into the body, dove into nutrition a little bit, some recovery stuff. So I'm really excited to see how it all played out, and hopefully put all the pieces together and have a pretty good year.
How about this? As you get ready, what drills did you include in your routine? Maybe some stuff that you could pass along to young kids who are playing baseball and softball. Younger kids, JD, what kind of stuff as a pitcher, from a pitcher standpoint, and we'll get you.
Yeah, so we can't throw all day. So I had to find a way, especially as a kid, to where I could get my pitching stuff in, but not throw at a high intensity and hurt my arm. So mechanically, I'm a big believer in the balance drill. And that's basically just posting up on your back leg, finding your center of balance, because everything stems from there. If you can find balance in your delivery, your arm will sync up, your body will be in sync with each other, and it'll move the right way. So I was doing a lot of balance drill in the mirror, and just going from there and trying to sync everything up as much as possible and see how effortlessly I can do it. And you can kind of do it all day because your arm doesn't really hurt because you're not throwing anything.
Did you do that thing that Ralph Macchio did in Karate Kid, where you get up on the one leg and do all that kind of stuff? I mean,
no, I didn't get that far, but I'm gonna mess around and see what I can do.
Get balance boards and all that kind of stuff. I know.
Yeah. I have a balance board that moves if I'm not centered. As a kid, we used to do it on like a 2x4. We take a 2x4, put another piece on the bottom, and kind of like a tightrope, and you have to balance on the tightrope and go through your mechanics on there to make sure you are in line and staying in balance.
All right, so that's from a pitcher standpoint. Dylan, you got to be ready to play infield. A short burst, quickness, moving laterally and forward and back, and then you get the long strider approach, when you play in the outfield. So I'd be curious, what you did, what you could tell the kids.
Yeah, you just kind of got to. I'm a big believer in some jump rope. I did a lot of jump rope this off season, and you have to work. I don't do too much running in the off season because I think a lot of that gets done during the season. I want to tire my legs out too much. But there is a phase that we go through where there is short bursts of energy, and then because me running in the outfield at full speed is a lot different than trying to line up a ground ball to field it. And so, like I said earlier, I was able to keep my my infield prowess on, sharp by throwing the ball up against the wall and having my rhythm through the baseball, through the tennis ball actually, and then also just running and throwing the ball up in the air, and you can go catch it yourself, and that doesn't take anybody else. But that's how you kind of cover infield and outfield.
Jumping rope is great. I remember the first time I was shown how to do it like the boxers do, when you get the leather rope, the rope plastic fast rope. It's a blast and aerobically, and what it does for your core, man, it's outstanding.
Absolutely, yeah, it's great.
The safety protocols, how did that affect you, Justin? That in this age of COVID-19,
yeah,
how did you work in and around that stuff?
I'm sure Dean was going to say the same thing. It was a little bit of an adjustment at first, figuring out. For me, not being able to spit and do certain things on the mound to keep everybody safe, and getting used to having to get a new ball every single time it got hit and play, or multiple people touched it. And for me, when I got in the facility, it was kind of like things got back to normal. So I caught myself not really wearing my mask, and I have to I need my mask and walk around, and just playing the game was what felt normal to me. So it was like the world kind of stopped. But once you get used to it, it becomes regular, just like anything else. So this year should go a little bit smoother and be able to hit the ground running and really get going with baseball.
Yeah, I know. I always carry 2 masks when I go out. Now they want you to wear 2 masks, and I got to carry a third one for just in case. So, I mean, it's nuts. I mean, it's like everything, Dylan, you adjust, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to get better this year. There's a little bit tighter protocols coming up, and I think that as the season got going and we figured out what exactly we needed to do to be safe, we held each other accountable, and we were, hey, you forgot your mask here, or stay safe, to stay apart. And it's hard to do because it's a team game, and the guy hits the home run and you want to run up and hug him, but maybe that's not the best thing right now, and we got to find out different ways to celebrate and be creative that way. And so that's definitely it's a positive outcome, I think. But just staying safe, it helps when everyone keeps each other accountable.
Sure. What kind of advice, Dylan, would you give kids? They're getting ready to return to their teams, schools that are starting to get open up. Things are starting to open up a little bit. And, what should their focus be on? As trying to get ready, because ramp it up, because you're now, you've been indoors, you've been, everything's been tightened up now. Everything's going to broaden out. Yeah,
sure. I would just say just focus on getting back together with the team. I know there's been a lot of individual time. Maybe you've been on the Zoom school for a while, and that's getting a little bit and you need personal interaction. And I think you look forward to seeing your friends again, and to be in a team game. I think that is huge for the development of kids. And I just say go out and have some fun, and remember what it's like to mess around with your friends. And some of my happiest memories as a child were going out in the front yard and play with my friends, riding around the block and with the bikes, and getting together for a pickup game of baseball, with a tennis ball and a racket. You know what I mean? We just kind of made anything work for us, and with the safety and everything of COVID, it kind of went a little bit back. But I just encourage kids to get out there and have fun. And it doesn't have to be baseball. There's so many different sports that that you can do, and it'll be a bit of an adjustment, the same way that everyone's making adjustments in this tough time. But I'm confident that everyone just gets back out there and have some fun with your friends, and remember what it's like to be a kid again.
Yeah, how about that? How about you, Justin?
Yeah, I think that's the biggest thing. Have fun, right? This time away, especially for me, it just showed me how much I love the game, and having it taken away showed how much it meant to me. So for kids, it's just anytime you get to be outside and play a game, and you've been cooped up for so long inside, just go play, go have fun. Like Dimo said, it's not even really about the game. It's just being with your friends and having the chance to have a little bit of normalcy. So have fun. if this is what you love to do, focus on getting better, but have fun, enjoy the game, and get the reps.
I know there've been so many times I've stayed inside here in New York. I feel like a bear's been hibernating. When I get outside, I'm like, wow, look at this! This is great. Yeah. So you got to really watch yourself. You got to be under control. Justin, Dylan, thanks so much for your time.
No problem. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, sir.
And a really great message within there that through these really tough and difficult times, the one really great thing that has come out of this is perspective and really realizing, how lucky we are to play this great game of baseball and softball. There's so many things, that I loved about what they said. And I hope the parents hear that too. And I hope, and the coaches, that they come out of this and, they make sure that the emphasis is on fun. And these kids have been so cooped up. And so that should always be the focus. But especially in 2021, it really does need to be the focus is to keep this game fun. And, for those parents that are a little bit nutty, remember that if you want your kid to be the greatest baseball or softball player, the longer they play baseball and softball, the better they have a chance of getting. And the more fun you make it, the longer that they will actually want to play. Ryan, would you agree with me? You work a lot with these young kids. It's got to always be fun.
Absolutely. And, you touched on it too. Look, when I'm working with a kid, if they're, 12, 13 years old, I'm not trying to, build a little league stud when we're doing that. We're trying to build, some of that foundation to when they're 16, 17, 18, 19, before they get into serious baseball. And for me, I was never the best kid. I was a late bloomer when it came to, putting on some size. I mean, it took me till I was 16, 17 to catch up to these other kids. But the one thing that was different, I just had that obsession with baseball. And the reason why is because I loved it. Even the most mundane little things that you had to do, I'll make sure I made the absolute most out of them. So just back on that too, I think if there is a time or a stretch there where it starts to it turns into, this is now a work thing, or I have to work and do this, do that, and the fun gets taken out of it. Start building little competitions within, that little drill you're doing or something. Start competing against yourself or your teammates, and make sure that fun element, because man, it is hard to play baseball, especially when you're a kid with all these other distractions. If the fun is taken out of it, that's for sure. And that goes for parents too, like you said, Angie, as well.
Everybody has to find their right, sort of sweet spot. I didn't play really competitive ball until later. So for me, I kind of got to college and I was just really sort of ramping up, all the reps and everything else. You couldn't drag me off the field. I loved it so much. And Brian, you were somebody who just played the game with so much fun. I mean, you always looked like you were having fun playing the game.
Yeah, just to piggyback off of both what you guys said too, it's very important that you have fun because this is the most challenging, difficult game in all sports. You fail 7 out of 10 times and you have an opportunity to make the Hall of Fame. So with that, a lot of failure like that, you got to make sure y'all can always find a positive space. And I would extend that out to coaches as well, making sure that they don't discourage players from playing the game as well. One of my favorite things to ask a youth player, softball player or baseball is, how long do you play baseball and when did you stop and why did you stop? And 99% of the time, they all tell you is because a coach discouraged them. So my challenge to all the coaches, don't discourage these kids and these players from playing.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes we focus so much on the scoreboard where really wins and losses should be, how many of your kids kept playing baseball or softball the following year, and sort of grade yourself as a coach on that fact alone. Right. Dylan said so many cool things about hitting, and I want to bring it back to you, Hunter, about a short bat or a long bat. I always tell people, don't throw out those little league T-bats, the T-ball bats, because they're great one-handed bats. And can you sort of, espouse, if you will, on the virtues of breaking down your swing and your front hand and your backhand and how important that is and how effective it is?
Yes, it's very important. And I agree with you 100%. Mechanically, we want to make sure that the front arm is making the right movements. And so that's why the one hand bat is perfectly. But then the backhand too is along around. It's just along for the ride too. So we want to make sure that hand is following too. So I think if we can hit a line drive off a tee with one-handed bat, then you're doing the right things. And when you put two hands on it, it's going to make it a lot easier.
Yeah. And Ryan, he talked about balance. I'm talking Justin was talking about a balance drill that he does. I was coaching my oldest son's baseball team last night, and we had a kid on the mound, and his tempo, his rhythm, he was trying to hurry things. And I said, listen, we always work quick, but we never hurry. You know, how important is it to find that center, Ryan? And how important is it to sort of understand that drill that Mr. Dunn was talking about?
Yeah, I'm glad, Justin Dunn brought that up, the balance aspect, because even from young kids too, and even from the 16, 17-year-olds, I always talk about, hey, if you can get violent, move fast, that's great. But before you do that, you have to be able to maintain that balance throughout the whole move down the mound. And one thing, it's like if you were taking a charge in basketball, there's no way you're going to be on your heels. Boom. Your body naturally knows to get on the balls of those feet and take that charge because you're taking on force. Well, you're generating force when you're moving down the mound. So everything, you have to have that good posture and good balance. Otherwise, you're never going to be able to run at capacity. So if you ever do feel like you are getting out of whack, all of a sudden your body's running away from your arm, or you're missing command-wise, I guarantee you can go back to those little balance drills. Justin Dunn mentioned a couple that you can do at home. There's all kinds of balance drills you can do. Get that center first. And then once you have that and you feel comfortable with that, then you can start speeding up, getting a little bit more violent, and start moving down the mound a lot stronger, that's for sure.
Yeah, and I love the fact that he brought up the 2x4 and his ability to just sort of use the 2x4 as a balance board. And Brian, I don't know if you ever used this as a hitter, but we did it back in college as well. And we didn't have like the huge, we didn't have a whole lot of money to buy these sort of things. So we would do that. We would either be on a bench, and I hated being on a bench because you'd fall like a foot and a half. But I liked it a lot better when you were just like on a 2x6 or something like that, and swinging and hitting off the tee or soft toss or even center toss, and making sure you weren't falling off that board.
That brought a big smile on my face when I heard that, because I did the same thing too. And I just think those are some organic ways and easy, simple ways that you can control your balance. So I think it's a great idea. What I love, both what Justin and Dylan both mentioned too, is about the mental side of the game. How important it is to visualize. Physically, we can only take so many reps. We might only take 100 swings physically, but in your mind, you should be able to take thousands of perfect swings. And once you can build that muscle memory up once again, then you can execute it physically.
Yeah, let's get into the visualization, because you hear it all the time. The mental side of baseball. Brian, you touched on it. You fail 7 out of 10 times, and you play long enough in this game, you're headed to the Hall of Fame. It is a game built on failure. Ryan Rowland-Smith would not agree with me because, of course, he's a pitcher. But I've heard the difference physically, right, at the top of the major league level, like from the worst to the best, is 20% difference, really physically. Whereas when you look at the difference between the best and the worst mentally, you're looking more like 80%. So, the mental game is so strong. How do you sort of, and mentally you do have to sort of, Ryan, on the pitching side, if you're a pitcher, you have to forget. If you're a closer, if you have a bout outing, you have to have a short memory and all that things. But Hunter, let's start with you and just how important it is to, visualize, all the things that you have to do in this game, to hit an inside pitch, visualize hitting an inside pitch, hit an outside pitch. I mean, these are the things that you could be doing, daydreaming as you nod off to sleep at night.
Yes. Yeah. That's the key. So for me, that's when my career kind of transitioned, is when I started visualizing myself facing these pitchers. And trust me, you're not having good dreams when you have to visualize facing either Randy Johnson or Pedro Martinez. But I'm telling you, if you can visualize that you can actually make contact, your chances are raised the next day when you have to face them. So I believe in the mental side and the visualization more than anything.
Hyphen, I know this is big with you and everything you preach to young kids these days.
Yeah, I mean, it's massive. And one thing I learned when I was going through some struggles, you can't change your reality, but you can change your perception of reality. So basically for me, I mean, you mentioned not failing. Trust me, I had some massive failures in my career. I remember that there was a difference. It was I've got that 12 seconds. I'm about to throw that pitch. And when things are going great, it's like, all right, here it is, hit it. Boom. I'm going to throw this pitch middle away. I don't have to be perfect, and you're not going to do anything with it. On the flip side of that, when you're struggling, all of a sudden, I'm going to throw that exact same pitch. But, man, if I throw it here and I make a mistake, it's getting crushed. If you get too caught up in that lens you're looking through, it's just going to snowball out of control. So a couple things on that. Number one, I think if you do, let's say throw 100 pitches or let's say 50 pitches and you give up, a home run or whatever it may be, we always find ourselves going back to that one pitch we threw as opposed to going back and saying, man, I executed this pitch, I made this pitch, and embracing how cool that was. Don't get too caught up in it, but start catching yourself. And it takes work. It takes a lot of work. In that one game you threw, get caught up in that nasty slider you threw and the guy missed it by 2 feet. And on the flip, and at the end of that as well, you hear that fake it till you make it. What I used to do, and Angie, sometimes I get nervous broadcasting with you and I'm worried, I don't know what I'm going to say, I'm going to freeze. I go back to what was I doing? And I even started recording myself. What was I doing when I nailed something? This goes into the playing days as well. If I threw a really good game or threw a good pitch and I walked off, sticking my chest out like I own the place, I would start catching myself and basically before I even went out to compete, before I even started, pitching a game, whatever, I used to go back to physically what was I doing, mentally what was I doing, and it just starts to trick your brain a little bit to say everything's okay, even if you sucked and you've gone 0 for 20 as a hitter or whatever. It just kind of tricks your brain to say, all right, I'm in a pretty good place here, and boom, now I can go out and execute and be in that right frame of mind.
And I want to talk to the folks at home. It is not just Brian Hunter and Ryan Rowland-Smith that are going to tell you how important the mental side of baseball is. Anybody who has played this game at a high level is going to do that. And right now we're going to hear from some current Mariner players and people within the organization. Joey Gerber, I know he touches on some of the mental aspects. Hugh Quattlebaum has some fantastic hitting drills. We'll get into, just how great they are no matter what level you're on in just a little bit. Jake Fraley and Evan White. So listen up, because these guys, all of them, starting off with Evan White, the Gold Glover, know what they're talking about.
What's going on, guys? This is Evan White. I just want to take you through a few drills I've been doing at home to stay as ready as possible for the 2020 season. So, start off by get on your knees, finding the wall, having a tennis ball so it's not too heavy on the wall. And just work the hands, get it loose a little bit. So just kind of work on picks a little bit, short hops, forehand, backhand, whatever you want to do. It's going to be a good thing to kill some time. But you can kind of advance up a little bit where you get in your natural fielding position. And what's something I like to do, something Bone taught me this year, is like picking a target out in the distance. So that way, once you field it, you have your feet going towards a certain direction. So that's the way you work on game-like situations. So it looks a little bit like this. A few times. Make sure you bring the ball to your chest. That's going to keep your arms short. That's something I've been working on myself a lot this off season and spring training, the first go around. So another thing I want to talk to you guys about is some visualization stuff, and that's something you can do from a defensive side, offensive side. Something I like to do is put myself in different hitting situations. Picture guys I've faced in the past, so that's why I have a good reference point and good visual. So go through your regular routine. For me, it looks a little bit like this. Tap, tap, couple bat wiggles. And then now sometimes I like to close my eyes to get a better visual, but feel the rhythm, whatever you like to do. And then get a full swing in if you have the space to do it. If not, if you're in your room, don't do a full swing. But stay safe, have fun, and God bless.
What's up, guys? Jake Fraley here. Just wanted to come to you guys and kind of give you a little insight on what I'm trying to do to stay ready for the season. Very simple. It's a wall drill, very similar to what Evan was showing you guys. You can do it with a baseball or a tennis ball, anything you'd like. For me as an outfielder, this is kind of something that this spring training we were taught from Bone about really focusing on, and that's really just making sure that we're being as simple as possible when fielding a ground ball. Very important for outfielders, especially on do or dies. We're trying to throw a guy out the plate. We got to make sure we field it cleanly. And for me, I'm really just focusing on making sure that the glove is sideways, and I'm kind of staying at this point, and that way I'm able to lay it down as simple and as easy as possible, and it can be a clean, fielding the ball easy. So I'm going to do a couple for you guys. just like that. Just very simple, keeping it here, laying it down. That right there is something simple that you can do at home. Very easy to do, and you don't need a partner. You can do it with yourself on the wall. Thanks, guys. Drill that you can do at home. I see a lot of times, especially the younger guys, they have a lot of trouble adjusting to different speeds of pitches. Sometimes they face a dad or a player that's throwing really slow. Sometimes it's throwing a lot faster. So learning to adjust to those speeds can be really helpful. So with this drill, we call it the 3-stopper whopper. We got our red, white, and blue Go USA. 3 stops, 3 plates. It'll be 3 different distances that Broxton, my man Broxton, 6-year-old, who will adjust to those distances. He's going to go show us how to do it right now. You can also mix up the balls. We got a sack of wiffle balls here. That's always handy to have. You can mix up heavy plyo balls. You can mix in some baseballs. We'll mix that in at the end. But we're doing mostly wiffle balls because we're in the backyard. All right, ready. The first play, this is really short, really quick, so he's going to have to be ready to hit quickly. Good. Good. Next play. You back up. Always you have to wait a little longer. Good. Next play. Now you're going to really have to wait for this one. Good, Rock. One more. Good. Then come back to the middle plate. Good. And mix in the baseball. Good job, buddy. That's the 3-stopper whopper. Really good drill you can do at home.
Hey guys, it's Joey Gerber. I'm going to be taking you through a mental exercise that you can do during this time off to try to at least stay mentally sharp. So I'm going to be talking about pitch visualization. I know that some people struggle to actually see the pitch that they're trying to throw in the game, but if you're at least thinking about executing the pitch, it's going to help you to focus on the right things, focus on, making the pitch, and so you're going to still get better. So I'm just going to run through kind of what it would look like if you're on the mound. So let's say there's 2 outs, bottom of the 9th, a guy on second base. So I'm going to, first pitch, I can envision a, slider down and away for a called strike. So get ready, check the guy on second base, slider down and away, called strike, get it back. Now I'm going to try to throw a fastball a little above the belt, high in the zone for a strike. So I can see it happening. Throw a high fastball for a strike. Maybe it's fouled back or something. Who knows? So now third pitch executed for a strikeout. High fastball above the zone. That's like base. And that's basically how you do it. Just trying to stay mentally ready, stay sharp so that you can execute your pitches when you need to in a game.
And all of a sudden, our guests just got even cooler because everything that you just heard on, these guys can expound on, and I don't even know where to go. We were just talking about the mental game, and there you hear it once again from Joey Gerber there at the end. Let's start at the top with the Gold Glover, Evan White. And here's a guy, and I know for a fact, gentlemen, that this guy works extensively with tennis balls. And I love tennis balls because when kids are younger, sometimes with baseball, you get hit with a baseball or you're trying to learn how to catch a pop fly, a really high one. And if it gets you in the face, then maybe you don't want to practice catching pop flies, very much. So, Brian, how important is it, to make sure you work in things like tennis balls? And here's a Gold Glover who, his wife was hitting him tennis balls with a tennis racket, working on picks and everything else last year during the downtime.
Yeah, I think it's very, very important. I want to say hats off to all the players too that have to play during these kind of conditions as well during this pandemic. So this is really challenging not to be able to have fans there. So much love to all you players that are handling this so well. The tennis ball drill is amazing because it doesn't discourage you. Once again, like you said, Angie, if you get hit by it, you're not going to want to stop playing. I think it's great for hitting. I recommend throwing curveballs to players and hitting them with it so they can get used to learn how to turn the right proper direction. Once you see a curveball or a fastball, if you turn the right way, when you do happen to get hit, then it won't hurt as much.
And Ryan, I'm going to turn this over to throwing because I find that so often, I hate this term, throw like a girl. Okay. And a lot of times what happens is that, a softball is so big in a young girl's hand. So it's really hard for her to turn that ball away from her. And so she ends up cupping it and then never really it kind of turns. So she'll cup it and then try to flip it. Tennis balls, when you're learning how to throw, Ryan, are so effective because they're light. It's really easy to get that elbow up above your shoulder, whereas, baseball's kind of heavy for these young kids when they're learning proper throwing mechanics.
Yeah, and this goes back to, I was talking about learn how to throw before you learn how to pitch. A lot of times too in kids and you can look at in the major leagues, you've got Max Scherzer, the Clayton Kershaw, they all have different release points, and that's where their natural release point is. When you have that tennis ball, like you saw Evan White, popping it off the wall, if you back up a little bit and you have that concrete wall or whatever it is, and you're able to throw it, when you pick that ball up, set your feet and throw, that can help even for pitchers, because what it does is put you in a natural position to have that natural arm slot. It's really, really important. The last thing I change on young pitchers especially is that arm slot. I start changing what the body's doing first, then we start messing with that arm slot. So what it does is get you into that nice, efficient arm path. Angie, like you were talking about, with the softball, sometimes when you see young girls with a softball, all of a sudden the coach says, okay, we're going to do this drill. And they get way too robotic, too mechanical, takes the fun out of it, number one. And number two, it just slows them down and puts them in bad positions. So it's just like a caveman trying to rocket a rabbit. You know what I'm saying? They pick that thing up naturally and boom. And this even goes back to some kids who, or MLB players when they have the yips. This is one of the drills if you're dealing with the yips and you're not connected to your hand and you don't know where that ball's going. One of the drills is the tennis ball, pick it up and throw it to a target as soon as you can to try and just get that natural instinctual throw off and get you in that natural arm slot.
Yeah, really good stuff. And I want to remind our young and older guests that are watching right now virtually that type in your questions and we will make sure that Ryan and Brian or even myself will answer it. And I think we have a bunch of questions, so I want to make sure we get to some of them from our viewers. We'll start off with this one, and this one's for Brian. How did you get so fast? I want to steal a lot of bases, and I'm pretty fast already. All right. I like your idea of running in sand and running up hills. Is that how you got fast, Brian?
Yeah. Oh, well, it helped having a world-class track star for our older sister, too. So I got a little secret a lot of people didn't know. My sister taught me form running at about the age of 22 years old. And my whole life changed. My arms and legs started working in unison. I was already fast. So I would say focus on some form running and get on some heels and get into the sand. But yeah, I was fortunate. I had a sister. Thank you, big sis Stephanie. Thank you for all the training.
That's awesome. So I actually was right-handed hitter my entire life until I got to college. And so I always kind of make the joke that they just looked at my swing and they were like, oh God, let's just get on the other side and we'll start over. But of course in softball, slap hitting, you can bunt, you can slap, and you can hit away. So you're kind of more like the triple threat. And one thing that I did, Brian, to your point about form running is they said my first 6 steps were speed skating. I'd go right, then I go left, then I go right, then I go left. Yes. And I'm running 2 or 3 more feet on my way to first base because I'm running, diagonally. So
like an alligator.
Exactly. Form running, it's really important, and things about leaning forward and keeping your feet underneath you instead of reaching out super fast, super far in front of you.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So I was fast, always fast, but my arms used to flare out. My nickname was Bambi when I first got drafted. It was tough. I would go to first base and I'd fall. Half the time I fall going to first. So once I got my arms and my legs started working together in unison, it really changed everything for me. And then I started studying my first 3 steps when I was still on the base. Those are the most important steps that a base stealer can take, is focus and study your first 3 powerful steps. And then you have a chance of stealing the base.
And Ryan, remind us how you got so fast.
What are you talking about? I could literally run. By the way, too, just on the sprint coaching and the sprint work, one thing that really helped me out was working with a sprint coach, because it just forced me to be responsive and explosive. And I started doing all the sprint training. Big shout out to Carl Wallace back in Newcastle. We used to hit the hills like on the beach. Man, it helped me with that explosiveness and that fast, from the ground up, that fast response. So that's massive. Whether you're a position player or a pitcher, I always recommend the sprint work, even for the pitchers too.
Yeah, and we're going to go to another question from one of our viewers, but I wanted to touch on something with both of you guys really quick on Quattlebaum's video about it was called the 3-stopper whopper. I loved that drill because so much of hitting is timing, and people don't understand, what you're trying to do, Ryan, as a pitcher, to offset their timing, slide step, quick pitch them, all sorts of things, fastball, changeup, curveball. So that's really, from a pitcher standpoint, got to be an effective drill for what you're trying to do on the other side of things.
Yeah, big time. I mean, especially for kids too, like he mentioned too. I mean, you got a coach pitching, and then you might have some, young little man child there. The 13-year-old looks like he's 20 throwing gas, and then you go back to the kid who's struggling a little bit. So the timing's everything. I love that drill. It was great. But the biggest thing for pitching is just disrupting that timing as much as you can with your pitch arsenal. That's for sure.
All right, let's get into another question really quickly. Can you explain the different grips pitchers use, and which one would you recommend most for kids?
All right, so the grip part, obviously I've got a baseball right here too, which is perfect. But basically the grips, it depends on what pitch you throw. So a real quick run through. So you got your 4-seam fastball just like that. You change up. Basically with a change up, the whole idea is when you pronate that wrist, you want everything off. These are your power fingers. Basically, you just want to have a nice, comfortable grip where when you throw that pitch, these fingers are not coming into play, and they're not the last thing to accelerate that ball. Change up. That's the most important thing with that is a comfortable grip. Not trying to do some crazy super duper grip. Just keep it comfortable and maintain your arm speed. The curveball looks like this. So you have the seam on. My light's kind of bright here. Be across that seam, and basically these knuckles, when you get out here with that, it's basically, and this was my pitch too. This was probably my best out pitch. Those knuckles are just going to go boom, like you're actually hammering a nail. It's called a hammer for a reason, on top of the catcher's head, out in front, boom, and stay over that ball. And then, lastly, you can throw a slider like that, a split like that. As for the young kids, the biggest thing I always teach is nothing changes but the grip. In other words, young kids, everyone talks about, curveballs are dangerous. Well, the reason they're dangerous for them, because all of a sudden mechanically you do something different. So you put yourself in an awkward position trying to throw a curveball because you're trying to make it really big. The most effective curveballs in the big leagues are the ones that maintain arm speed and the ones that are sharp and late. So I always say this all the time, nothing changes but the grip. If you're going to throw that changeup in your head, just like Joey Gerber was visualizing, for me, I used to think, okay, I'm going to throw this pitch. I'm going to grip it like that, and I had a pretty good changeup as well. I'm just going to throw this thing as hard as I can. The way I'm going to get that hitter out is from arm speed, not from movement. And with my curveball, same thing. Nothing changes but the grip. I'm going to think fastball to the last second, and then boom, just turn those knuckles over. I still think, and one last thing, Angie, before we move on, when you're a young kid, establish that 4-seam fastball. Don't try and trick kids. You're going to face better hitters as you get older. Save the trickery for later. Have that mentality that I'm going to overwhelm this hitter. I'm going to overpower him with my fastball. And then you can start tricking guys later on. Establish that fastball still, even though it's 2021 and baseball's changed and off-speed pitches get used a whole lot more. You figure out my arm speed mechanically. How do I move efficiently with that 4-seam fastball? And then you can start manipulating a lot later.
Hey, Brian, real quick on the heels of that, I think that a lot of kids growing up, particularly in the Northwest, where oftentimes the ball is wet, it's so important that every single time, Brian, when you're playing, as an outfielder and everything else, that you make sure you get the grip. I mean, would you agree that every single time when you play catch, every single time you make sure that you're throwing across the 4 seams? And what does that mean?
Yeah, actually, Angie, I got to the point where I just walked around the house growing up. I remember that I had other coaches that would encourage me to just walk around the house and throw the ball in the air. And every time that I flip the ball in the air, I should always catch it on a 4-seam grip. So for an outfielder, I need that ball to stay straight line the whole way. So I recommend that. It's another great drill for kids at home. Just throw a baseball or softball up in the air and then catch it. Obviously, with a wet ball, you want to get a little deeper grip. So you want to get to maybe possibly if you can get that third finger on there as well, too, just to make sure you got the proper grip. But it's very, very important that you can use the seams and grab it from the outfield.
Yeah, exactly. Because if you don't get a seam, that ball is going to squirt out of your hands and you're going to slip. All right. So more questions from you all. These are great questions. Thank you so much. And please keep them coming. All right. We're talking about all these great baseball drills and we get this question. What is your least favorite baseball drill? And this was great training. I'm going to do mine. My college coach used to make us swim. So after practice, we had to go and we had to do, breaststroke, a freestyle, and then backstroke, intermediate and advanced backstroke. And the last stroke the last one was doggy paddle. And your forearms are just burning. I mean, burning. To doggy paddle all the way there and back in an Olympic-sized pool is just, it's awful. All right, so that's my worst drill. And it's not even really, softball. But you know what? It makes your forearm strong, keeps your shoulders, strong in all different places. But man, that last doggy paddle was terrible. So let's see, Ryan, let's start with you. Worst baseball drill.
Well, yeah, I don't know how I'm going to beat the doggy paddle, but I think for me, I wouldn't say it's my least favorite. It's one that it's really counterproductive. And I used to get taught this when I was a kid, and even kids I teach now, say, hey, has your coach told you this drill? And they'll put their hand up and say, yes. It's the kick as a pitcher, kick your back leg up and over. Or get you, put a bucket out and kick your back leg up over the bucket or whatever. That generates velocity. It really doesn't. It's really counterproductive. I learned that later in my career. The reason it doesn't is we're stronger on 2 feet than we are 1. So when we try and kick that back leg over, there's no way we can get any kind of rotational power from the back hip. And that back leg's just along for the ride. And I don't want to blow up any coaches if you're sitting there like, oh man, I just taught that drill to my team. I don't want to, no offense or anything like that. I'm just saying that's a drill. I got taught that all the time. We had to sit there with a log and put our foot up and over that thing. Our back leg, and come to find out, it was really counterproductive when you talk about generating force and balance and all these other things. So take that one out of the routine, and you'll be okay.
I love it. The game is always changing and always getting better, and we're learning more and more. Brian, what about you?
Yes, like Ryan said, I apologize to any coaches who might have just taught their team this, but the squish the bug. We always grew up, like you said, the game's evolved, but the squish the bug theology of just spinning in place is just, you got to get some type of forward movement just slightly. And I think that's one of my least favorite drills for sure. The squish the bug drill.
I agree with you, because even though you do want the hips to rotate, if you just spin them, you're really not having that back hip come through and impacting the baseball. You're just spinning.
That's right.
I understand the concept that people want to teach, but it's not generating and driving the body like it needs to.
Yeah, there you go. You got to introduce the drive with it. And so if you drive along with squish the bug, so you can still squish the bug, but you just got to make sure you got some kind of a drive too.
All right. I need 2 or 3 more hours with both of you guys. I'm so sorry, but we have to wrap this up, but literally we need 2 or 3 more hours. You guys are so fun to listen to. You guys have so much information. I'm so appreciative to everything that you taught me today and all of these young kids as well. Thank you guys very much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Angie. Thank you, Ryan.
All right, so that wraps up our youth baseball and softball virtual clinic. Thank you so much to everybody who joined us on this today. Thank you to Root Sports for their support of today's event. And here's what you need to do. You need to go to mariners.com/community tour. That's for more information on how you can be a part of our next baseball and softball virtual clinic. So on behalf of the Seattle Mariners, for Ryan Rowland-Smith and Brian Hunter, I am Angie Mentink, and I so look forward to seeing you down at T-Mobile Park sometime here shortly in the future.
Bye.